just record that, and I'm going to give a brief presentation for our first meeting of the semester. So hello everyone, and welcome to the RU Wildlife Society. So thank you to all of our returning members for sticking with us, and for all of our new people who decided to check us out and see what we're about. So just a brief introduction into kind of what we do as the Rutgers chapter of the Wildlife Society. We provide a lot of opportunities for you to network with experts and professionals in the field, which is kind of what we're doing tonight with our monthly meetings where we invite people to speak to us. We also offer field experiences, which we can go into a little bit later. Pizza. And we also have a bunch of fun events that kind of just, you know, get everyone together and allow us to meet each other and get to know, you know, your fellow ecologists. And kind of what I was trying to highlight with this slide is that even though we are, you know, kind of a single chapter at Rutgers University, we have connections with the greater state and national chapters. So it's a great way to not only explore opportunities within Rutgers, but to kind of explore everything else that's in the greater the Greater Wildlife Society. So here are some quick pictures showing events that we've done in the past. So in the top right, we recently went on a hike in the eco preserve. So it was super fun, had a lot of people join us, and it's just a great way to learn about what we have here at Rutgers. And some other things that we have planned for this upcoming semester are a saw-whet owl banding trip. So that's the picture on the far left where you can see the really cute little owl. So we'll send out more information about that soon. And spots are limited, so we're going to ask that you sign up early so we can figure out who's going to go. And we also are planning on offering a kind of reptile and amphibian searching trip. So that's something to keep an eye out on. And we will also do some songbird banding in the spring. So this is basically just who we are, the e-board. Our advisors, Dr. Brooke Maslow. I'm the president, I'm Morgan, and we have Courtney, our vice president here, and Connor, our secretary. Courtney is also our treasurer. So if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Our contact information is on our website, and we are always willing to chat about anything wildlife related. So with that, I just want to give you a quick kind of rundown of some things that we have planned for this semester. So this Friday, we're going to team up with the Entomology Club for a bug hunting and pinning demonstration. Just from a show of hands, off the top of your head, who here thinks that they could go and are interested in attending? Awesome. All right, perfect. Thank you. And then next week, we have our Woodbridge tree planting trip, which was originally scheduled for this week, but it got postponed. So Connor sent out a form and he can send it out again tonight. So if you're interested in volunteering for that, definitely fill it out. And then during Halloween, we're going to have a bat house building day, which is going to be super fun. So stay tuned for that. And one last plug is that we have vacant e-board positions. So if you're interested in becoming involved with the leadership, or you just want to get experience, definitely let us know. And we will talk about what you can do to get involved. And throughout the semester, just let us know what you want to do. We basically cater to kind of the trips and activities that you guys want to see. So we definitely are always open to suggestions.
To pin on to the end of that, check your emails. There'll be a lot of this information coming up soon. So make sure to check.
Yep. And with that, that concludes our very brief introduction. So I just want to introduce our speaker for tonight, Miss Melissa Anahory. And I want to give a huge thank you to you for presenting to us tonight. So she works at the Woodlands Wildlife Refuge, and she is a wildlife rehabilitator. And she's going to be presenting about her work and kind of what her organization does. So everyone, please give it up for Miss Anahory.
Thank you guys so much. I'm honored as a Rutgers alumni to be here tonight virtually to speak to you all about what it is that we do as wildlife rehabilitators and at Woodlands. So let me share my presentation here. All right, if anybody can just give me like a thumbs up if you can see my presentation. All right, cool. first and foremost, I just want to say I'm really excited about the things that you guys are doing as an organization, and that you're going to be building bat houses and things like that. Those things are really important to the wildlife of New Jersey. So a little bit about me. My name is Melissa. I'm a licensed wildlife rehabilitator at Woodlands Wildlife Refuge. We are located in Hunterdon County in Pittstown. It's about 50 minutes or so from Rutgers, New Brunswick. And we do care for over 1,700 mammals and reptiles each year. We are always looking for extra help. The way that I got involved with Woodlands was actually, I did my internship there while I was a student at Rutgers. And then I came back as a staff a few years later. So we'll get into that in a little bit about volunteer and internship opportunities. But before we do that, we'll talk a little bit more about who the refuge is and what it is that we do. So Woodlands Wildlife Refuge, we are a 501c3 charity, which means we're a nonprofit. So not only do we take in so many animals, we get no state or federal funding. So we rely completely on the generosity of others to care for all of those animals that we get in. Woodlands has been around since 1986, so we are actually celebrating our 35th year this year, which is amazing. So Woodlands has cared for over 21,000 of New Jersey's wildlife since its inception. Woodlands did start with Tracy Lieber, who is still our executive director. She started caring for 2 orphan raccoons back in 1986 before she went on to formally get her wildlife rehabilitation license and then create Woodlands Wildlife Refuge out of the spare bedroom of her home. From there, it grew to the spare bedroom in the backyard. And then from there, it grew and grew and grew until it moved to the facility where it is today. And now we are on 11 acres in Hunterdon County. And like I said, we care for over 1,800 animals a year. So the mission of Woodlands is to receive, rehabilitate, and release injured and orphaned native wildlife, to educate people about wild animal habits and habitats, and to protect and create natural environments where people and animals exist in harmony. So we do this in many ways. We are open 365 days a year for animal admissions. We get over 3,000 calls a year on our hotline for help. And also some of those people simply call us because they have some sort of animal living under their porch, for example, or in their shed or in their attic. And they call us for advice because they want to know how to discourage those animals from having certain behaviors. So we do more than just receiving and rehabilitating them. That's a big part of educating people is the hotline calls that we get. We also do formal education programs. I go to schools and talk to various students. I also have a lot of scout groups that visit us or I visit them and we give them formal programs. And then we also try to instill the protection and creation of natural environments where people and animals exist in harmony. So those people that call us about nuisance wildlife, we try to educate them about those animals and why they're actually good to coexist with. For example, oh, you have a skunk, living under the shed in your yard. That's amazing because that skunk is doing free pest control for you. He's digging up all the garden pests and grubs and things all night long and protecting your garden. So that's one way that most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, once people learn a little bit more about the animal that they thought was a pest, they are more willing to tolerate and live with it in harmony, which is what we've seen. So every year, Woodlands cares for approximately 1,800 mammals and reptiles. We don't have permits for birds, but that doesn't mean that we don't take them in. If it's an emergency, we will absolutely take them in and then triage them and transfer them to other rehabilitators that do have bird permits. or we will refer directly to them whenever possible. A lot of the reasons that animals come in, the top reason is probably injuries. So a lot of animals hit by car, especially during the spring and summer. We also get a lot of small orphaned animals after major storms. So for example, when Ida came through, we got 40 calls the next day about baby squirrels that were blown out of nests and needed to come in. So we probably have about 60 or more baby squirrels right now in our care because of some natural occurrences like that. Cats and dogs are a big reason why we get a lot of animals as well. They dig up, especially rabbit nests, and catch a lot of things. So they come in to us for rehab for those reasons. And then over the summer, especially, we get a lot of turtles and sometimes snakes that are injured, hit by car. So there's lots of different reasons why animals come in, but those are kind of the major, like, top four. I just wanted to share a little bit more about me and how I got involved with wildlife. It's kind of funny because I actually was born in Brooklyn, which does not have a lot of wildlife, as you can imagine, unless you consider people. So sometimes people are like, oh, how did a kid from Brooklyn end up becoming a wildlife rehabilitator? I think it actually helped me appreciate every animal being from like a major city, because growing up in the city, every little squirrel or bird or, you know, whatever that happened through the yard was a big deal because it was pretty rare for us to see any type of animals at all. I also was very blessed. The public school that I went to in Brooklyn often took us on trips to the Bronx Zoo. So at the Bronx Zoo is where I had this epiphany at like 6 years old, like, wow, there's so many more animals in the world than like the occasional squirrel that we see in the backyard. The picture of skunks here is a funny story. The Bronx Zoo had a fun skunk exhibit back in the 90s where you could step up on a pedestal and push a button and take a whiff of skunk out of like a contraption that they had built. So, you know, 6-year-old me got up there and was like, oh, fun, like a skunk has a smell, like I wonder what that is, and pushed it and like sniffed it real hard. So to this day, I can't smell skunk without having like reliving that memory of being at the Bronx Zoo. So I actually like that smell, and some people think that's really strange. But it's really special to me to remember that that's where I first saw animals for real for the first time. I also wanted to let you guys know that one of the reasons that I didn't come in person today is that I do actually have a disability as well. When I was 13, I was diagnosed with severe scoliosis, and I had a T2 to L3 spinal fusion when I was 14 years old. That really changed me because it gave me a second chance at a normal life. I had been told that if I didn't get that surgery, I would be wheelchair bound for life and never be able to do anything. So it really made me appreciate everything and want to kind of give other living beings that second chance as well. So rescue animals and help them have a normal life. A couple of years ago, I actually found out that my severe scoliosis is from a rare neuromuscular disease that I have called Charcot-Marie Tooth disease. It's something that affects the peripheral nerves. And so sometimes it's a little bit difficult to grasp things and things like that. But the reason I'm telling you guys this is because a lot of people in my life, even while I was at Rutgers, told me, you know, you're not going to be able to do what it is that you want to do. You have these limitations, you know, people aren't going to pick you over someone else. And I just want you guys to know that that's absolutely not true. Don't let anybody ever tell you, things like that. If there's a will, there's a way. So when I got my internship at Woodlands, I ended up being the best intern that they ever had at the time, and really made an impression on them. And that's how I was able to like get my foot in the door to really do wildlife rehab as a profession. So I wanted to pass that along to you guys. So speaking of when I was at Rutgers, I'm a class of 2008 reject. What that means is I was on the 5-year plan. I was supposed to graduate in 2008, but ended up staying for an extra year to finish my courses. My major was natural resource management with the option in ecology and conservation. I think things might be a little bit different now, but back then we could choose some different options within the natural resource management major. So that's what I picked. And it's okay if it takes you a little bit longer than 4 years. That was the other thing that I really struggled with, was seeing some of my other friends graduate, on time, and feeling like I was behind or I wasn't gonna be able to do what it was that I wanted to do. But I graduated in 2009, and I'm still doing what it is that I wanted to do. So that was the 5-year plan. And then someone at some point told me, it's okay, like college isn't a race. It's not about when you finish, it's about the fact that you did it and you pursued what you were really interested in and what you wanted to do. Even in those 5 years, I didn't get to do some of the courses and things that I wanted to. So like these field trips and stuff that you guys have the opportunity to go on, definitely do those things. This is a picture of me in my limnology class. We got to wade through some fun lakes and look for insect nymphs. And that was just a really interesting, fun experience. And then the internship that never was. So this whole time I've told you that I did an internship at Woodlands Wildlife Refuge and then went back as staff a couple of years later. But that wasn't my first choice. I actually applied for an internship my actual senior year, not my super senior year, at a different wildlife refuge. And they had so many applicants that they told me I wasn't chosen. So that really discouraged me for a while. I thought like, oh, great, all those people were right. They chose other people instead of me. But I had inquired with Woodlands at some point prior to being rejected by this other wildlife refuge. And kind of like magic, the recruiter at the time at Woodlands reached out to me and said, hey, you inquired here and then we never heard anything else. Like, where'd you go? Like, are you still interested in coming for an internship? And I was like, oh, like this is some universe stuff right here that's happening, and I should really check this out. My only hesitation was that it was an unpaid internship and it was an hour away from where I lived, which was also another reason why some of my classmates were like discouraging me from doing it. They're like, oh, you're really going to do this unpaid internship so far away from home, blah, 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 whatever. But look where it got me. So don't kind of dismiss those opportunities, especially when they're seemingly like falling into your lap or coming to you. So obviously I took it. It was tough, but it was a summer where I learned so many skills. So at Woodlands, we train everyone on various things, including animal handling, tube feeding, critical care, husbandry, all sorts of things that would have really made me stand out to future positions, no matter what, no matter if I would have ended up at Woodlands again or not. So, like I said, don't dismiss the dreaded unpaid internship. animal identification. We got to see like firsthand diseases and things like that that you don't normally get to see in like domestic animal settings. Plus connections in the field. So Woodlands works very closely with several different biologists from New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, veterinarians, animal control officers, and domestic shelters. So there was a lot of invaluable experience being able to meet those people and like help with the bear release when Fish and Wildlife was there, and meet those biologists and find out from them what it's like to be in that field. So there's lots of interns and volunteers that we've had over the years that have gone on to become veterinarians. They've gone on to become game wardens and things like that. I also got credits for my internship. At the time, it was called Practicum in Wildlife Management. You could sign up for that quote unquote course and then use an internship to fulfill those credits. So we still get Rutgers interns that end up getting credits for doing an internship at Woodlands. So I definitely wanted to mention that to you guys, for if you're interested, definitely talk to your advisor. That's where I recommend you start. And they can help you figure out how to do an internship and also get credits toward your major. And plus priceless, unforgettable experiences. This photo is of a little get-together that Woodlands had after my internship. They told me it was a costume party and that everyone was going to come in a costume, and me and this woman were the only ones in a costume. And funny enough, we both dressed up as raccoons, so we had to take this photo. Everybody else was in normal clothes and thought we were crazy. All right, so here's some interns at work, including me when I was an intern. So interns are fully trained, no experience necessary, even if we get folks who have worked at other wildlife refuges. We still train everyone from the ground up, no matter what. So it's okay if you've never touched an animal. We have a very extensive training where we start you off with just like shadowing us and observing, and slowly work your way into working with some of the quote unquote easier animals like little baby rabbits and squirrels and things like that, before we eventually get into our interns working with raccoons. This gentleman on the top left was a very experienced volunteer before he became an intern. So he eventually reached a level where he could help us with bear cubs, which is what he's feeding. And we do get so many animals a year that there's plenty to go around. So we're pretty proud of that. Our internships are really hands-on. I've heard that over the years from other interns that go intern at some other facilities, like, oh, they didn't let me touch an animal, or I was just the person who cleaned cages and stuff like that. Do our interns do those things? Absolutely. But we do offer hands-on experience with handling animals 100% of the time. Here's some more interns at work. This is during the black bear release. So we are the primary black bear rehab facility in New Jersey. When it's time for them to be released, the biologists come and they do a bunch of measurements. So the bears get ear tags with unique numbers on them. And then they get those same numbers tattooed inside their upper lip. That's their identification forever. So that's like that bear's fingerprint. The reason for that is if that bear ever gets caught in a research trap, then they can trace it back and know exactly who that individual is, where they came from. They'll know that that's a Woodlands bear, etc. So because of that, we know that our rehab bears don't go on to become nuisance bears. And we also know that our rehab bears have gone on to have litters of their own that have also had litters of their own. So we have proof of at least third generation bears from the ones that we've rehabilitated and released. So our interns are our go-to people to help us with these things. So the reason for that is our interns are there 25 to 40 hours a week. So for example, if I come down once a week to do some animal rehab, I'll most likely grab an intern and say, hey, help me out with this. I know you're familiar with this case. So there is lots of opportunities to work side by side with staff on these things that arise. And there's an edit here that I forgot to change. It is a 12-week minimum now, just because about two of the first 2 weeks are training. So like I said, we really get people gradually in. If you guys are interested in checking out the full requirements, the internship applications are on our website at woodlandswildlife.org. And again, these are minimums. So if you have like 30 hours a week, you can definitely sign up for a part-time internship of 25 hours a week and come a little bit more. That's always welcome. And there's me. I graduated. There's proof. I made it. I did it. Passion pedal. All right. So after all of the fun 5 years at Rutgers, I did my internship in 2008, graduated Rutgers 2009, and then in 2010, I joined Woodlands as a very part-time staff. It is a nonprofit. So in 2011, I became full-time staff. In 2012, I joined the board of directors for the New Jersey Association of Wildlife Rehabilitators. And I also began an apprenticeship to be a state licensed wildlife rehabilitator myself. In 2013, that happened after doing the apprenticeship. And in 2016, I became the president of the New Jersey Association of Wildlife Rehabilitators. I'm still on the board. I'm the current vice president. And if anybody's interested in becoming a member of the New Jersey Association, you can definitely ask me about that as well. And why does it matter? Sometimes people ask us this because they're confused, like, oh, what do you mean you rehabilitate, raccoons and squirrels and, these things that there's seemingly hundreds of. And it does matter because sometimes 180 snakes need to come in the same day, and they need somewhere to go and people to take care of them. So this happened to us. Not only did this happen to us, it was the day after our biggest annual fundraiser. We got a call from Fish and Wildlife that said, hey, PSC&G was working on some project of theirs and accidentally dug up a bunch of hibernaculums of snakes. So it was still pretty cold out for them to be out of hibernation, and all those snakes needed somewhere to go. Most of them were uninjured, some of them were slightly injured, but they needed temporary care until they could be released. So Woodlands never says no. So this was us running around like crazy. We went to the local Walmart and bought every single bin that they had in stock, and they thought we were insane. And we took in all 180 of those snakes of varying species. And that was just an amazing opportunity to see all of these snakes that I had learned about in my apprenticeship and through readings in person. So this is me with a Eastern milk snake. But we had all sorts, including venomous. So Woodlands is one of the only facilities in New Jersey licensed to care for venomous snakes. Myself and the executive director and my coworker Heather were the 3 licensed rehabilitators at Woodlands that care for the venomous snakes. So that is the one exception, like no volunteers or interns will ever care for venomous species for obvious reasons. Sometimes orphan otters need bottle feeding. So this is really special too, because Woodlands is the only facility in New Jersey licensed to care for river otters. So if anything happens to them anywhere in the state and they need rehab, they come to us. So this is me in the top corner with the executive director learning how to bottle feed otters. After that otter was done eating, he cleaned his face on my pants and it was adorable. And I wasn't even mad at it at all, walking around with formula stained pants for good reason. And when endangered species like endangered rattlesnakes need surgery. So this guy was the first rattlesnake that I ever worked with. He came in because he was hit by a car in a very interesting way. His venom sac actually came out and was exposed and dangling, and he had some head trauma. So we're very blessed. We have some veterinarians that donate their services to us, and there's no way that we could do what we do without them. So this is Dr. Tyndall at the Voorhees Corner Veterinary Clinic in Flemington. We called him up and we said, hey, we got this endangered rattlesnake with an injury and he needs surgery. And he said, absolutely, bring him over right away. And I got to go and help him with this. So this guy was actually in rehab for 10 months. We had to start out with tube feeding him because his mouth was sutured shut so that that injury would have time to heal. So at first we tube fed him, and then after those sutures were able to come out, we actually had to hand feed him like dead thawed mice twice a week, every week for like 9 months, which was absolutely crazy, but cool experience. And then he got successfully released, which was awesome. And then, of course, there's everybody else that needs our services. Bobcats are another endangered species in the state that we care for. This year, we got like 25 orphaned fox kits, which is like unheard of, in the spring, and they all needed a place to go. So we cared for all of them. We get lots of reptiles, like I mentioned before, especially in the summer, hit by a car. The other really special thing that happened this year was we got a snapping turtle that was hit by a car, and unfortunately we couldn't save her, but I was able to salvage the eggs that she had, and we incubated them for the last 3 months, and those eggs just hatched a couple of weeks ago into baby snapping turtles, and we just released those babies back to where their mom came from. So if you guys don't follow us on social media, definitely do that. We're on Instagram and Facebook. We post all those fun videos. So you can see those baby snapping turtles being released on our Facebook or our Instagram. And on the bottom is a teeny tiny little mouse and a little baby skunk. So we take in everything from the size of a newborn mouse all the way up to the size of a bear. So through the generosity of others, Woodlands will continue to grow and meet the needs of both our wild and human communities. So help us to always be able to help them. Please spread the word to people that wildlife rehabilitation facilities and wildlife rehabbers exist. We still see that some people care for things themselves. So please try to spread the word for us. We're always looking for volunteers and interns, especially as we grow and grow. Last year, despite COVID, was our busiest year ever, which was very interesting. We also had to do that with less volunteers. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, we're hosting a Zoom orientation on Sunday, October 3rd, which is this upcoming Sunday. So if you guys want to attend that, volunteer time requirements are definitely less than interns. The minimum is once a week for like 2 hours. So our volunteer applications are on our website as well. And if you want to come to that orientation, please send those in by this Saturday so I can get you signed up. And if you're interested in internships, we offer those year round as long as you can commit to doing the 12-week minimum. We can do those at any period of time. So I left a lot of time for questions, discussion. This is my direct email if any of you guys want to message me personally. Our website, woodlandswildlife.org, has all the information about helping us out for volunteering and internships, and also any upcoming events that we might be having. And then our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter actually is all at Wild Rehab. So hopefully easy to remember. If not, just snap a quick picture. And then I'm happy to hang out and talk to you guys about anything you want to talk about, any questions you might have.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Anahory. That was a wonderful presentation, and I think everyone here really enjoyed all of your pictures and cute stories. I know that. So yeah, I guess I can help facilitate the questions. So if anyone in our in-person meeting has a question, please just raise your hand. I will point to you, and then you can ask Ms. Anahory. And if you are tuning in via Zoom, if you could put your questions in the chat, I will get to them as they come in. So we have a question here in person.
I don't know if you can hear me. Do you rehabilitate deer or no? Because they're like a pest.
You're a little far away. I think you said, do you rehabilitate deer?
Yes.
Yeah. So deer is the one mammal that we don't have permits for at Woodlands. But we do triage them when they come in and transfer them to the rehabilitators that do. The ones closest to us that we transfer them to are usually Mercer County Wildlife Center. Or if people call us about them, we actually look up like where those people are calling from and directly refer them to the closest deer rehabbers. But like I said, even with birds too, we don't have permits for them, but sometimes they just show up. So we absolutely don't turn them away. We don't have to turn them away. It's just better if they can go directly to the licensed facility.
Thank you.
We have a question in the chat from Hannah. She says, besides the time commitment difference, are there any other major differences between being a volunteer or an intern? And
Yeah.
in terms of what they do for the refuge?
Yeah, so the other major difference is that because interns are there so much more, you learn a lot more skills quickly. So in that 12 weeks, you might learn what a volunteer learns in 2 or 3 years, because the volunteers only being there once or twice a week, they need to slowly gain those skills and slowly be able to learn to work with a wider variety of species. Whereas an intern, like, oh, you're here 25 hours a week, you're more likely to be there when those varying species come in and have those opportunities to help with a lot more situations. So both positions still get to be hands-on with animals and learn handling and all those things, but the interns, it's kind of like a expedited course.
Great, thank you. Also, for the people asking in the chat, if you'd prefer asking it by unmuting yourself, you are welcome to do that as well. But if you were not want to do that, I can read your questions. So our next question is from Isabel, and she asks, do you need experience with wildlife to volunteer?
No experience necessary at all. So I think I mentioned before, it's okay if you like never touched an animal, if you never even had a pet. we train everyone from the ground up, no matter what. So even if you came from another wildlife rehab facility, you're still going to get the same training as someone who has never touched an animal. And that's okay. Like, I had no wildlife experience at all when I interned at Woodlands, and then I left with all these valuable skills.
Thank you. And then James has a question, and you're willing to unmute yourself.
Hi there. I just had just a quick question. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
What's it called? It's always actually been a dream of mine to become a wildlife rehabilitator because I just have I just love animals. I have like 10 of them that actually care for myself. And I was just wondering, what is the process to become one?
Excellent. Thank you so much for your passion, because you were me. So the process to actually become licensed is to do an apprenticeship with a current licensed wildlife rehabilitator. So the apprenticeship consists of about 200 hours of training with that licensed wildlife rehabilitator, learning about the particular species that you're interested in. So for example, I apprenticed at Woodlands. So I did like a major apprenticeship for all the species that Woodlands was already licensed for. But if you're going to become like a brand new rehabilitator, you can also choose like your top 5. Like, okay, I'm going to rehab turtles, squirrels, raccoons, and stick to those, which is actually recommended for those like just starting out. The apprenticeships, I will say that most apprentices are chosen from like the pool of people that have already at least volunteered with a wildlife rehab facility, because then we know that those people already know what they're getting themselves into and are serious about it. So step 1 is definitely volunteer or intern with a wildlife rehabilitator, and then seeking one that will do an apprenticeship with you.
Thank you for that. It will help me a lot because I definitely want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we have any other in-person questions?
Yeah. Is there a set amount of interns that you accept at any time, or is it basically the more people, the better?
Can you repeat the question, please? I only heard part of it.
Oh,
Do you want to?
yes. So Courtney asked if, do you have a cap on the number of interns and volunteers that you have at any one time? Or is it kind of open to anyone who wants to do it?
That's a great question. So we traditionally don't have a cap, but there was one year where an animal that we were rehabilitating went viral on the internet. So after that year, we got like 30 intern applications, which was crazy. So we did have to limit it to like, we interviewed like the top 20 and then chose like 12. So I do recommend, if you're interested in an internship, like get your applications in early, because if we do get to the point where we're like out of time to train interns, then we have to like stop the process at that time. So for summer interns, for example, the applications are due April 1st. But I recommend not waiting that long, like be one of the first ones in line. And then we also have different types of internship opportunities. One of them is our wildlife technician. So not only do they help us care for the animals, but they also have more responsibilities, like helping us train the other interns, doing inventories, learning medications and things like that. And the wildlife technicians, we do only pick like 2 or max 3 every year. So if you're interested in that, definitely apply for that early.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Ashley. I'm just going to read it. She asks, how's the internship application process?
Okay, so the process is really easy. We just have the application right on our website. If you go to woodlandswildlife.org, you can find it under the internships section, and just look that over. Like I said, we have some different types of positions. Every position is outlined, like what the expectations are, etc. So you just fill that out and send it in. And then I'm actually the one who recruits volunteers and interns. So I'll reach back out to you and set up an intern interview. So when you submit your application, it's that internship application from our website, plus a resume and a cover letter. So definitely don't forget the resume and the cover letter, so that I can call you back as soon as possible and not have to move on to those who did send in the complete package. But other than that, that's it. So you just send that in, and then I contact you for an interview. We're doing most of our interviews on Zoom now. They're about an hour, and then after that, we let every applicant know within 2 weeks whether or not they've been chosen as an intern. So we don't leave you hanging and wondering or anything like that.
Thank you. Jarrett, you have a question?
Yeah, when you said like, oh, don't send your intern late, what is late and what is early? So would early be like April and late be June? Or
It depends on when you want to intern. So if you want to intern for the summer,
yeah, let's use the example.
yeah, so if summer is the example, early would be like January. But those would be the first people that we would call once we start doing the interview process. Our deadline is sometime in April, so sometimes people apply like literally the day of the deadline. And it's like, okay, but now you're on the bottom of the stack of the 20 other people that already applied before you. So you definitely want to get it in there sometime. I'd say even like February, March is good, if you want to be like seriously considered.
Okay. Because I was just like, this is the first time I'm hearing of this organization. I realized it's actually a relatively close distance from my house.
Okay.
So I'm heavily debating because I don't think I have anything planned for this summer.
And where are you located?
My home is in Somerset.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's just down 78.
Yeah, for sure. Straight down 78.
Thank you. Any other in-person questions? Any other questions from our friends in Zoom? Okay, Cassidy, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Cassidy. I'm thinking about doing the volunteering, and I'm wondering if you have hours open on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Because wildlife, they need to eat every day, right? And they need care every day. So we're open 365 days a year. Weekends are a big need. We start our day usually around like 8 a.m. or a little bit earlier. And then we try to get everybody out of there by like 10 or 11 p.m. the latest. So there's lots of flexibility throughout every day. So even like some people come after work or after classes or on the weekends for sure.
All right, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Allison, do you want to ask your question?
I was just wondering if how the rabies vaccine works and if you need that before you apply, because it said, I read on the application, it said applicants will be like considered priority if they already had the vaccine.
Yeah, so the rabies pre-exposure vaccination, it's not a requirement. It's not like we won't choose you if you don't have it. But if you do have it, it opens up the potential to work with more of the species. So certain species like foxes, raccoons, bats, woodchucks, they're considered rabies vector species, the animals that are most likely to contract or have rabies. So if anybody comes to volunteer or intern and they don't have pre-exposure rabies vaccines, they don't get to work with those species at all. So that's like a hard line that we have to take. If they do have the vaccine, then we can start training those people on how to work with those species as soon as possible. So especially having interns that have that is a huge need, because over the summer we get like 400 baby raccoons to take care of. So we need people that can help us feed them. But again, like even this year, we had 2 or 3 interns that just weren't able to get the vaccines. And that was okay, because the other interns with the vaccines were so busy feeding baby raccoons that our other interns had to take over with feeding everything else that wasn't raccoons. So some of them have been able to get it through like travel doctors, or even asking like your general physician to order it for you. We had one intern that was able to do that. And then he got it like administered at his local Walgreens, and his insurance covered it, which was amazing. Otherwise, the New Jersey Association of Wildlife Rehabilitators offers a discounted pre-exposure rabies vaccine program every year. It's not guaranteed to happen again, but if it does, that's usually around May. But you do have to be a member of NJAWR, of the association, and also you have to be currently volunteering or interning with wildlife rehabilitators to be considered. But it's like deeply discounted. Otherwise, it's like $300 per vaccine, and it's a series of like 3 vaccines that are needed.
Okay. Questions? Anyone in Zoom? Okay, so with that, I want to thank you so much, Ms. Anahory, for presenting to us. We really appreciate it. And I think everyone really loved hearing about the Woodlands Wildlife Refuge and the amazing work that you do. So can we just give a quick round of applause to Ms. Anahory? So just wanted to say quickly, if anyone in the Zoom wants to stay after and chat with us, you are more than welcome to. But this formally concludes our first general meeting. So thank you everyone for coming. Have a great night.
There will be announcement if you're interested in quiz bowls, stay around. There's an announcement on that.
So if you're interested in Quiz Bowl, please stay on the Zoom call.
If you don't know what that is and you're interested, also stay in the Zoom call.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.